Okay. Yeah. So I'm just coming from the Hideaway hideaway, as opposed to the island. Here on Vancouver Island by Chemainus. I mean, okay, so it's sort of interesting because there's sort of like, if you think of the world view versus like a spirituality type, like acknowledgement that everyone's got kind of their own sort of like secret agency of what their spirit, or like the great spirit, like what's normal is normal is normal is normal, depending on where we come from, what we're brought up with, but also individually speaking, like when, for example, my brothers and I, when we were growing up, it was sort of like this notion that what do you call it? Like organized religion, we were in a certain amount of agreement that there was a lot of hardship in the world because of people having these sort of like divided views, let's say, like, and like I don't think that we necessarily thought it at the time, or where my brothers are with all that stuff, because there's hey there's in my last relationship that I'm still sort of like, I feel very tied to people no matter what, so like therefore okay, there's like a cherry blossom something or other here, tree here, which is reminding me of when she, like, I had already kind of like stopped with the tobacco, and like, there's, you gotta put down the smoke, take care of your health, all that good stuff, right? But so I learned a long time ago, though, that like passing on, even if you think that you're doing someone a favor, you're giving, like, if you know that it's no good for you, then if you give it to someone else, then you're like knowingly doing harm, essentially. And she was had a particular, it wasn't the right thing for a number of reasons, and so I've had to live with that. So fuck me a little bit is the lesson. It's, you convince yourself that you're doing a favor, which kind of leads in a little bit to this, like I can't help myself, like, oh, I wonder if they need to write. Anyways, is that better? Yeah, like, okay, so the spirit, whatever you want to call it, the life inside of ourself that gives us life, is individual and comes through each of us as like sort of like a different vessel. Okay, like the way that we might view something might even change in our lifetime, let alone in like a particular moment in time. So let's say that there are inspired works of the Lord, of like the almighty being that is able to come through each and every one of us. If that's like a baseline of understanding that we start with, then, you know, so be it. What's confusing to me is that, like, it's like, okay, well, no, like there's like the one true faith type thing, and it's like, okay, whatever, fair enough. There's three texts, for example. If we want to go ahead and believe that there's the Abrahamic religions, they might say, right? Judaism, which, you know, Christ was, and also, like, you know, he was sort of rebellious in a certain respect toward certain practices and traditions that were in place because he was living it rather than going through the motions of like, oh yeah, there's this tradition, or there's this, like, there's something to say about, like, well, kind of like, well, what's coming next, right? Because there is a prophecy as well where there is going to be a coming of, so like, I can't help but to think about this stuff when I'm coming from a more liberal-minded mindset of spirituality, in that all I know is that I'm inside of this body in this spirit, but I also understand that there's like a web of like, you know, I was gonna point to like but you know, like, we don't know how it works individually speaking, but I could guess that you know, this individual here, for example, like, you know, yeah, it's a 50 road, I'm going 60. They got to go somewhere a little faster. Maybe that's telling me I've got to speed up a little bit for like the social etiquette of this. The practice of this region is to go even faster than 10 above the speed limit. I don't really know how comfortable I am with, but you know, that's my mountain or theirs or both of ours, and the view of ourself versus the other, and that psychological game of like, oh, well, the way you believe is different than mine, and like, what if there is validity in each of our philosophies? Like, or maybe that's, I don't know. Sorry, I mean, that's maybe that's viewed as sort of like garbage. But you know, we're each on our own journey, let's say, right? That's what people say. And you know, it's the living stone, there's manna on the rock, like I don't know, what do we the almighty creation, especially if we have that intuitive knowing that life is sort of like go with the flow of things, you'll be taken care of. Maybe this is like a second wave of like, if there is something special of this time period that we're in, for example, like, who's to say that not to negate that the second coming, like people think about it, but I think that you know, even with this perceived to be this person who like, what's on the other side of the tracks from here? Okay, if we are in a period of time which there's a certain amount of agreeance that, like, that honoring the different ways that spirit comes through each of us, and showing respect to one another, and thus showing love for one another, which, like, some people might think that's pretty sad, and like maybe that's not the right way to go about it, because that is in line with the teachings of what the Christian, like, if we were going to hold up some tablets and whatever else, like, the traditional view of Christianity is that someone who would be saying the things that I am saying, I don't want to go there, but it is sort of like interesting to think about, like what are these notions of kind of like unity is brings about the second coming as well. Like, so, like, don't we want for there to be a return of Christ, aka a bringing of God as we know it, no matter who we are? Like, if there is an Almighty that you know of, then the true God will be present and bring about an era of love when there is this striving toward anyway, share your thoughts. I know talking about this stuff is a bit of a gamble, but I think that's kind of everything. Hey! There's like a wizard poking his head out of the tree. Oh my gosh. That reminds me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, hey, we're like meeting with Stuart today, talking about spectrum stuff, Tourette's, and I don't know. It's funny that, you know, life changes and we all change throughout our time, and it's kind of interesting to be in these different places in our life. Just kind of conceptually speaking, how we may be viewed, or like you know, there's a certain kind of labeling that happens in different stages of our life. But yeah, gonna do a little